Aloha and welcome back to the show, Brushing Up with Sean. How you guys doing? It's been a whole week since we last did our painting here. I missed you guys, man. I hope you guys are doing good at home, brushing away and having fun with all of our paintings that we've been doing. So let's go ahead and start off with our raffle ticket question from last week here. This painting is something that I painted. It's actually a replica of a funny painting from an actual TV show, and one person guessed it right. Congratulations, Crystal M. You are the only one that guessed it right here. It is from The Office. So you get your raffle ticket right in here in the drawing cup. Little kind of background story on this guy here. It was a fun painting that I did for my wife and I's anniversary, and I gave it to her because it's one of her favorite shows, and it's just kind of a funny little tweak on a couple little things and details here, but I had a good time doing it. But I'll give you an extra credit, little bonus question on this painting here. Can anybody, as quick as they can, name the character that painted this painting from The Office? All right, so the first one to guess that and post it up on our Facebook, Brushing Up with Sean, you will get entered with your raffle ticket into that drawing as well. So name the character who painted this painting from The Office. Tonight's painting is kind of a fun one. It's a twist on what we've been doing and practicing and working on. We are going to be working on our sky and clouds here, but it's going to be an interesting little feel here. You're going to get a total different vibe from this one here, so I can't wait for you guys to see it. I want you to get 3 colors of acrylic paint here that we're using: blue, white, and black. So get those 3 colors ready. Also, I want you to get your big brush, a really big one, and a few small ones, and maybe a large one to dry off. You'll see what I mean when we do some techniques here. So a lot of fun, guys. Have fun, and we'll see you in a little bit. All right, guys, so as you can clearly see, definitely not messing around of how different this painting is going to be. We are going to be doing a nighttime sky little painting here, so it's a total different feel, but we're using a lot of the same colors, which is kind of interesting. But as you can see, I started off with a nice plain black canvas. All right, so I took that 16 by 20 canvas there and I just painted it all plain black. So it's a little bit different technique here. It might be a little bit easier for you. You might like this because we're really not going to be adding too many shadows, because we're really just going to need to add highlights onto this really dark sky. So go ahead and paint this whole thing plain black, let it dry off, and then let's get started here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our medium-sized brush. So find that brush that you kind of feel comfortable. I've got a couple like flat brushes right here, no big deal. Now with these skies, when it's so dark like this, we really got to test our paint. We got to get a feel for how the certain kind of acrylic paint that you're using will go right on this black. So an easy way to do that is just by taking just a little bit of plain blue acrylic paint. Just put a little bit on your brush, not much, because you're just going to test it. And what I want you to do here is we're going to go ahead and just, in that circular motion, we're going to start adding some of this blue, this plain blue, right on top of this black. All right, very randomly, we're just going to kind of highlight a little bit right here in the bottom. But do that circular motion. What you're going to start seeing is there's going to be a lot of different little shadows and highlights starting to just come off your brush naturally. This is so fun. This is such a fun step in painting here, especially if you start doing like nighttime scapes or galaxies, which we'll get into eventually too. This is exactly what you do. You start with that nice black, plain black. They even make canvases now that are just already black. And you can just get them just already built like that. But for now, we just use that black acrylic paint. And I don't know if you might be able to see it here, but that blue is starting to be absorbed a little bit by the black there. It's kind of soaking into it. So you can see I'm just going to add some more. Okay, and I'm going to bring you guys close up here so you can see what I'm doing here. But you should be able to start seeing a little bit of these highlights. I'm going to add a little bit more blue on my brush here just so you can get a feel. But again, I'm going to take this blue, kind of bring it a little out here. You can see I'm just kind of like doing that circular motion, but taking it further and further as far as I can go, adding those textures, and I'm not adding more paint on my brush until it's like getting really close to being off. But look how much that kind of soaked into that black. And that's the tricky part. That's the part where we have to really get a feel for your paint. Is it soaking in? Is it soaking in way too much? Do you need to add more blue to brighten it up? Now all we're doing really is just kind of lightening up a little bit of the sky here with these clouds. And we can break up this too. We can leave a lot of this plain black up here. I'd like to keep a little bit more of the blue down below here, just to showcase that black sky and that contrast. But man, that really soaked in. So once it dries, if you add another layer of some more blue, check that out. It's like totally getting a little bit lighter. And you can start seeing that blue stand out a little more. Now this is just the base coat. This is just to get you a nice feel for this blue soaking into the black here. Bring it down a little bit further here. So look at that, totally different feel. So hopefully you're catching that with the light. Again, I'm going to bring it up close here so that way you can kind of see this technique here. So keep going, add those circular motions of that blue, and we'll get you a little sneak peek of how it looks up a little bit closer here. All right, hang tight. All right, guys, so check this out. So what I'm doing now is giving you a good close-up of adding some of this nice paint on here. I'm even covering up some of the original. I'm just kind of just tapering off some of this. Again, you don't see a lot of symmetrical things happening with these clouds, but you do see some very cool colors popping off that black. And that's what I really wanted to show you tonight, was how much fun it can be when you go the opposite way. We're not really adding all these low lights or anything like that. It naturally does it because we're adding just only highlights onto this painting here. All right, I'm just kind of covering some ground here, but again, doing that dabbing motion, dabbing technique, finding some of my highlights that I just happen to make very randomly, and then kind of amplifying some of those areas. You can see just some down here. There's a lot of blue kind of happening right up here, so I'm going to just taper that a little bit away. But go with what you feel. Now when you want to start adding even brighter highlights, again, I'm using maybe a smaller brush now. I'm just going to add a little bit more white into my lighter blue, just making it a little bit brighter. And let's start off with this big cloud right here. It looks like it's really being hit with some kind of light source in the sky. Again, this is kind of like how you reflect some lightning maybe, or the moon possibly. Maybe we can do that tonight. In fact, what I can do is just do that now. So check this out. I'm just going to take some of that light blue that I originally had, just map out maybe where I want a moon. I'm just going to put it like right up here. I'm just going to start off with a small little circle. Okay, and just kind of start small, but then kind of get a little bit larger, just a little bit at a time, so you can practice making that circle. It's hard to make these circles sometimes. Okay, there's different techniques on how to do it. I'm just doing it with a brush real quick, just so I can show you where the light source is going to be from. And we're going to do a moon tonight. There you go. And when you want to, you can add some little highlights in that moon too. Just kind of chop it up a little bit there. Texturize it. Now it looks like a moon, huh? So you see I kind of did that real quick. And again, these highlights are catching off right off here. I'm gonna do it on this cloud here. I do it on a few. Again, just as really just up to you. You get to make your own masterpiece here of where these clouds are picking up the light from. And that's all you do is you're adding a little bit of highlights. In fact, I'm going to add some to these streaks here. And you can switch your brushes. You can start using like a tiny brush if you'd like. You can go to find one of those brushes you feel more comfortable with. Okay. And sometimes if you don't want these like absolute textures, all you do is you just maybe pick up like a dry brush. Like here's a dry one. And I can just kind of circulate some of these out just to smooth it out a little bit. Maybe that'll just kind of add that nice little bit of glow to it. And I can keep this handy, this brush, anytime I want to kind of soften things up here. But again, if I want a little bit more definition, I can even add more highlight and just add more dabs and change that overall look with. You can see up close now, you can see, look at, like I'm just adding more and more layers and detail. And that's where you start seeing that really kind of realism start to come out. The layers and the textures and all that kind of stuff. Once you add more and more layers of the different highlights. And you can see I've added probably about, I'd say maybe like 4 layers right on that single cloud right there. So it takes time. All right, these things can't be done just like so quickly, you know, especially if you want to start getting like some of this detail out here. So I'm going to get this cloud right here. This one's kind of catching. Look at that. You just change the look of it just by adding some highlights on a random cloud over here. I'm going to put one over here. Just catching some of that light in a certain way. Every sky is different. Yours is going to be different. I probably won't even be able to ever replicate this exactly. I guarantee it. And I know I wouldn't be able to. That's what's so awesome about art and painting. Each one is so different. Look at that. Keep going, guys. Look at that. Beautiful. Just fun. Fun step. Nighttime glow. And lastly, I'm going to just add some plain white here. Just to make some obvious a new layer of glow. And I just added on top of these some of these already highlighted areas here, just amplified it even more with that little bit of plain white. Really cool step. Okay, so as you can see, we kind of really just amped up a lot with highlights, made it a total different vibe for sure on this painting here. I get a lot of people are like, hey, I'm kind of a perfectionist and I really want to make this perfect here. You got to kind of let that stuff go. All right, I'm going to show you what I mean here. So you can see we kind of really worked on this here, but what happens if you're like, oh gosh, I completely messed up. I'm like, oh gosh, you know, like, what happened? You know, it's okay. Don't worry. Like, check this, just go with it. Sometimes, again, you'll see me saying this, that some of the best things that could ever happen to your painting is that you mess up and you just go with it. You just keep it going. Keep try to like work with it. See what happens with it. Like, I'm just gonna add like a bigger cloud highlight right there. That's all I did was I took some of that. Okay, and you're like, okay, I messed up this area over here. Don't worry, I'm gonna add more over here and maybe connect it a little bit. I don't know. It's always different. Each painting is so different here. And again, the point is, mistakes are gonna happen, guys. Like, it's totally cool. Just let it go and kind of go with the flow here. Just see what you can make. Again, look at this. I'm just adding maybe more brighter highlights on this cloud. I just made it just a bigger highlighted cloud from that mess up. And you can see, look at that. I'm just adding some fun. That's what's so cool. I love doing these landscapes because you can mess up. Now, if we were doing like a portrait or something, that's a little bit more difficult, all right? You're gonna have a tough time with that, but hang tight. We'll figure that out too eventually, but that's more in our advanced classes here. That's tough. That takes time too. But there are different techniques where you can, I'll teach you how to master some of that. But look at that. Very random, still kind of got the glow effect here of that random kind of moon here, you know, just giving that nice bit of clouds here. And again, if you kind of just like, hey, I don't like this area, you can even take a little bit of black and you can maybe just darken up with a little bit of shadowing here. You can just very randomly just try your paints out, just test it all out. Each time I work on these clouds, it's always so different. It just works though. You'll be all right. All right, so check this out. I'm just randomly making some things happen on this painting here. Who knows? Just having fun with it. All right, it's a nighttime sky. It's gonna have a different kind of feel, a different kind of glow to it. I just want you to have fun with it. All right. Let's see here. I'm gonna bring that, and all you do is, again, maybe you step back and you say, okay, maybe I want a little bit something else happening on this. You know, maybe I want some highlights over here. Look at, I'm just taking some of the leftover paint on my brush. And it's got a little bit of that grayish tone now because of the black. Totally fine. It just works. It works with you. All right, even if you feel like you mess up. Again, I love taking some of these paintings and just being like, hey, let's figure this out. All right. How you guys doing? Okay, hanging in there with me? It's all right. Let's have fun with it, all right? Just keep it going, all right? And that's what it's all about here. Again, this was a kind of a fun nighttime scene, a little bit different twist on what we typically do as far as our daytime stuff. But again, I want you to get a feel for it because we're gonna be working this technique on some other paintings later on. So keep it going, guys, all right? All right, I'll see you next week, and let's see some of your paintings. Send them my way. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, to send photos to Instagram or Facebook too. You can actually answer those raffle ticket questions, and we'll talk to you guys soon. All right. All right, guys, so as you can see, a much different style of painting because we went from a real dark canvas and just added highlights. Lots of layers, lots of detail on this one here. Again, just practice. It's gonna take time as you start figuring out your techniques and your paints as well. So you can see we just added a lot of different layers just right on top of that black. Again, nothing but highlights tonight, really. I hope you guys had a great time. We will see you next week. And remember, anyone can paint.